All right, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video, another NBA Finals video. In this video, we're going to talk about Game 4, San Antonio Spurs versus New York Knicks, the last home game, at least for now, for the New York Knicks in the Garden. And let's say Game 4 lived up to the hype a lot more than Game 3. We're just going to jump straight into it. These videos are just me recapping, reacting, talking about what I like, what I didn't like from both teams. And in this one was just a historic game, truly. If you don't know, I'm going to tell you. I'm going to spoil the whole video, but we're going to get to the point of how we got here. But the New York Knicks are up 3-1 in this series now. They beat the San Antonio Spurs at home, at their place in the Garden. They came back from a 29-point deficit. The Spurs led by 29 points in this game, and somehow they lost. And when I'm going to think about this game, even now, and when I'm going to think about it in the future, this was an all-time classic. You don't get games like this all the time, and obviously you don't even get finals games like this all the time. And this finals has already beat last year's finals, just as a series as a whole. But let's get into the nitty gritty. If you like what I have to say, like the video. If you have any opinions, comment it down below. And if you just like the vibes, consider subscribing. I feel kind of, I want to say deflated, but I have so many notes. Like, I have so many things to get to here. Because not that I thought this, well, I think we all thought the Spurs were going to win, but I thought, maybe we could finally talk about some real negative things for the Knicks, and why they lost this game, and why the series is 2-2, and how it's going to be a long series for the Knicks if these things keep happening. And that didn't happen. The Spurs kind of just didn't show up, and that's been the theme of this whole series. And I've come on here and told you guys, and other people have told you, other experts have told you, this Spurs team is terrible in the second half. And some people are going to tell you this is an all-time collapse. I'm not quite ready to say that yet. I don't know if this is an all-time collapse. I'd have to look like at a list or like think about it myself of all-time collapses. But this is one of the most like damaging, I would say. This is a damaging collapse. Not just to the Spurs, but to Victor Wembanyama, the star of the show for the Spurs. And there are a lot of culprits in this downfall of the Spurs in this moment. There's Coach Mitch Johnson, there's De'Aaron Fox, there's Stephon Castle, there's Dylan Harper, there's Victor Wembanyama himself. There are a lot of moving parts in this devastating loss. And the first thing I want to start with here is I was trying to think about how I would, tee this whole video up. And I think I came up with it beautifully last night, and this is my words. I typed this my last note in my notes, but I'll read it here now at the top. The youthful exuberance of the Spurs allowed them to get a 20 to 30 point lead. It ended up being a 29-point lead, but the experience and the maturity of the Knicks allows them to work their way back into this game and get an improbable win. And I think that pretty much sums up this game. I could end the video right here and it could be 3 minutes long, but that's not what we're gonna do. we're gonna dive in a little deep. Like I said, I thought this was gonna be a video where I could talk about the series being 2-2 and yada yada yada. Instead, I have all these notes and they feel kind of not useful anymore because the Knicks are gonna win this thing. They're gonna win a championship for the first time in like 50 plus years. And the Spurs handed them this game, just like they handed Game 3 to them. And that is something that we can talk about, and these notes can be useful for. Not so much to dissect the Knicks, but dissect the Spurs in that case. A little Uno reverse card there for you. So we'll get through the first half a little quickly, because the second half might just be 40 minutes of me talking about the second half. But in this game, early in this game, Cat got 2 quick fouls, and that disrupted everything for the Knicks. because they had to pull Karl-Anthony Towns early. They had to get Mitchell Robinson in there. And not to say Mitchell Robinson has been ineffective on Victor Wembanyama, but Mitchell's hurt. His hand is still messed up, so he's not 100%, especially a guy who needs his hand because he's around the rim and he needs to catch the ball and he needs to put it back in. And every time he grasped at the ball, it looked like he was hurting himself. So they had to put Mitchell Robinson in, and then this is when the Spurs start to make their huge lead. And this is when you're watching this game, and if you watch this game in the first half, you thought to yourself, oh, the Spurs just won this entire first quarter and the second quarter. They just need to play good defense and cruise to the end of this game and then go back to San Antonio 2-2. That was on the backs of Devin Vassell shooting the ball very well. It felt like he was going to go for a record, and they cooled off a little bit. He ended the game 5 of 8 from 3, 18 points. He shot the ball incredibly well in that first quarter, and it was infectious to the other Spurs. They started shooting it very well, and then Mitchell Robinson got in a little bit of foul trouble himself, so that's your starting center in foul trouble with 2 is Mitchell Robinson with 2, I think, right? And then the Knicks had to pull out a rabbit from their hat, and I called this. I said if anybody on the Knicks is going to get foul trouble, it's going to be the centers, Mitchell Robinson and Karl-Anthony Towns. I said this when I was previewing this series, and I said Ariel Hukporte might have to play. Pacome Padadia might have to play. Mohamed Diawara might have to play. And 2 of those guys didn't play, but Ariel Hukporte went in the game, guarded Victor Wembanyama for 3 minutes, and then checked out and never checked back in. He tried his best. It was inaudible. They just had to get somebody out there. They got some other guys involved guarding Wemby, but Ariel Hukporte was the first one off the bench that hadn't touched the floor this whole series. And then finally, around like the 4:30 mark, the Knicks started getting it going. But it felt, I'll say this, it felt insurmountable even at that point. Because you knew the Spurs were going to keep this going in the first half. Again, they're a very good first half team. The Knicks knew this, and I feel like they just needed to bide their time and just wait out this really intense, like, demoralizing run, right? And not get demoralized, which is very hard. Because the Spurs just kept shooting and shooting and shooting and shooting and shooting. And then when the Knicks finally did get it going a little bit, the Spurs defense was on point. They were switching really well. They were doing some interesting things with that they've been doing all playoff long, but they've been trying to keep Vic around the paint as much as possible. So like it's really fast switches if somebody's diving to the paint or somebody's like lurking near the paint. Vic like tags them with one hand, and then his teammate comes over and switches onto them, and it's very interesting. And I feel like I didn't see any of that in the second half, and I was so like in awe of it in the first half, but the second half it wasn't there. Jose Alvarado's been getting a lot of minutes these last 2 games for the Knicks. He gave the Knicks some really good minutes, like a couple minutes, like 2-3 minutes for Jalen Brunson to rest on the bench, which was much needed. Because you know what happened in the second half. They needed some Jalen Brunson buckets, and that rest in the first quarter and a little bit in the second quarter helped keep him fresh. As we dive into this game a little bit more, we get some more shenanigans. We get a flagrant. They went to the monitor a lot in that first half because I feel like the refs wanted to control the game a little bit more. And they laid the law down a little bit. There was some shenanigans, some flagrants, some technicals handed out, some technical free throws taken. And then after that, that's when we got a wild Jeremy Sohan appearance. Jeremy Sohan, former San Antonio Spur, cut midseason on the Knicks now. He was tasked, sort of like Ariel Hukporte, going for 3 minutes, guard Victor Wembanyama, and then never touch the floor again. Jeremy did okay, I guess. I mean, when you're familiar with a guy, I guess you sort of know his tendencies. It didn't really affect Wemby that much. Wemby even if he was getting guarded very well towards the end of that first with Jeremy on him, Vic would just kick it out and the Spurs would hit another three. And that was just the story of this. Is like the Knicks, when they finally locked in on Wemby, the Spurs as a whole just had it going. Dylan Harper shot the ball well in that first half and in the first quarter. I mean, if you look at the final numbers, it doesn't look great. He made 1 3. Devin Vassell made 5. De'Aaron Fox made 4. Julian Champagnie didn't shoot it well. There it is again. When Julian Champagnie doesn't show up, it becomes very difficult. Dylan Harper shot it well, 3 for 6. And even the mid-range shots for like Castle and Harper were good. Stefan, the point total doesn't look great, and the point total doesn't look great for Julian Champagnie, but they were effective in some smaller ways as well. Heading into the second quarter, some more shenanigans for the Knicks, and I have here shenanigans won't get the Knicks back in this game. Um, it looking back on it, maybe these shenanigans did help. It kept the crowd involved, I guess. When you think about it like that, in the grand scheme, in the moment when I'm writing these notes, I'm like, these shenanigans aren't helping. You need points on the board. You don't need these like antics and stuff. But it did keep the crowd involved. It kept the team, I'll say morale high, but like the vibes good. Um, and maybe it did pay off. Maybe that's a note that in the moment sounds better than me saying it out loud right now the day after. Um, the Spurs continue their onslaught into the second quarter, and then up. What was it, at that point, like only 20 points? The Spurs go to hack a Mitchell Robinson, where if you don't know, Mitchell Robinson is a very poor free throw shooter, and teams will just foul him when he has the ball, and when he's going up with the ball, and he'll have to go shoot the free throws, and usually he misses both. Sometimes he makes one, but the Spurs were doing that, trying to keep their lead and trying to keep Mitchell Robinson out of the game because Cat was still in foul trouble, and they wanted to keep Cat and Mitchell off the floor as much as possible. The Spurs did, and then the guy who was really amazing in Game 3 is amazing again. And he starts to, I'll use the word percolate. I hate using that word because I feel like it's overused and when you talk about sports, but um, he starts to boil. Let's use boil. Let's use another cooking term. He starts to boil, right? OG Anunoby starts to really, boil up a little bit. See the bubbles on the top, and you're like, he's gonna do it again. He's gonna have a really good game, and we'll talk about OG a little bit more on the later, but he starts going. Knicks are still down, but he's still going. He's keeping the momentum going, and it feels like the Knicks are not out of this. And then as we get to the closing stages of this third, OG has it going for the Knicks, like I said, and Dylan Harper has it going for the Spurs. Dylan Harper had an amazing game. He really did. 21 points, 8 of 12 from field goal. His mid-range was really great. His three-pointer was okay enough. 3 of 6 from 3, 2 free throws, 3 assists, 4 rebounds for the game. I feel like this was a Dylan Harper game that was spoiled. I really do. This felt the most untouchable Dylan Harper has felt, and he's only a rookie. They could not throw anybody on him, and he had it going for like maybe a good like 5 minutes. Where it's like, just get the ball to Dylan Harper. He's gonna do something. He's gonna have a turnover or two, but he's gonna get a mid range shot. He's gonna get a crazy layup. He's gonna kick it out, and it's gonna be somebody wide open. He's gonna hit a three. So OG and Dylan go at it at the end of the second here, and now we head into the second half. This feels like a movie. It feels like a movie, where it feels like a movie from a director, right? That their pacing, their style of directing, how the characters usually go, and it feels like the Knicks are perfectly teed up in this second half to go on a run. And me personally, seeing the lead as it was at halftime, I thought to myself, I said, the Knicks are going to come back. They're not going to stay down 25, almost 30 points. They're going to get it with at least like 15, maybe 10, towards the end of the game, And that was my genuine thought. I'm not even like trying to like BS. I genuinely thought that because this Knicks team has been so good all playoff long. It's like they don't back down. They want to at least get it close and make it competitive. And then maybe at the worst, give the MSG crowd give the MSG crowd something to root for, right? And they did that. They really did. They came out in this uh, second half. Let me read some numbers here for you. The Spurs after the first half had 10 plus made threes. The Knicks only had five, or not even five. They had like four. So Knicks shooting it poorly, Spurs shooting it very well going into this second half, and then we really start getting into the heat of this where it's happening. The feeling starts creeping in on you where it's like, oh, the Knicks are just gonna keep going. They're not gonna like some teams at this point in the playoffs and in the finals when you're down this big and you get into like the third and the middle of the third, you start thinking, maybe we should rest our guys. You know, the team that's down, you thought maybe we should just rest our guys, get ready for game five. You know, we kind of wasted this one. They were on fire. It's fine. Nick said no. Mike Brown said no. We're going to keep our guys out there. We're going to keep playing basketball. And they played really good basketball. There was a moment where Vic hit Karl Anthony Towns, and it was a flagrant. It was deemed a flagrant. I know there was some talk about Vic getting special treatment and him not getting, hit with some flagrant fouls they probably should. He did that thing to Jalen Brunson last game that Knicks fans weren't too happy about, and he got hit this time, which was good. And I don't want to say it's changed the momentum of the game this moment because there are other moments that change the momentum of this game, but we get it's about the 6:45 mark in the third quarter. The Knicks went on a 10-point run, and I don't want to say the Spurs looked like they were panicking, but the Spurs didn't look like they had a concrete answer because as much as they could do it on offense and like they could get like 2 points, 3 points there, the Knicks would like go down like 2, 3 possessions at a time and get like 6 points, 7 points. And those are the runs you need to go on to get back down from 29. And it started with this 10-point run with 6:45 left to go in the third. And I sat here. I'm not here. I'm in a different spot, but I sat in my office chair watching this game on the TV. And I'm watching this, and I'm watching Mitch Johnson just stand there and do nothing. As the Knicks are going on the run, the Spurs coach, Mitch Johnson, just stand there. And I'm like, call the timeout. You have to call the timeout. You have to stop the bleeding. And Mitch Johnson just stood there. And I don't know if he felt like his guys could handle it or this was like a teaching moment. I'm going to be so real. We're done with the teaching moments. This is the finals. Bro, you should have called the timeout. You should have called the timeout. It was embarrassing that you didn't call the timeout. I couldn't fathom why you couldn't call the timeout. I really couldn't fathom it. I was shocked because like I understand you want your guys to like be ready for these moments, but like, dude, just call the timeout, please, please. And he didn't. And then I have a note here that says the Spurs have not burned a timeout during this Knicks run. Dylan Harper had it going a little bit and then started to wear off. And then the Spurs just got way too sloppy at the end of this third. And the building at this point for the Knicks, Mike Breen said this on the call as well. He said the building was shaking. And I believe it. I believe it. This is one of those moments where you really think about what this could mean if they did make this comeback at this point. Sitting here watching the game in the third quarter, you're like, this would be nuts. But there's no way, right? You think to yourself, there's no way. No way. The Spurs aren't going to give this up. Let me tell you, you're in for a story here. The Spurs were way too sloppy to end this third. I mean, just turnovers, stepping out of bounds. Were there a lot of fouls? I don't even think there were a lot of fouls. Just like like when I was talking about the switching earlier and how good the defense was, that just wasn't there. And again, it came back to bite them. They couldn't guard OG Anunoby. For whatever reason, the Spurs team just can't guard OG Anunoby. Like I want to say they left him wide open, but they kind of sag off OG and they're like, OG beat us. Oh, OG did, but OG beat us. Like they're treating OG Anunoby like he's Jose Alvarado, right? Like Jose Alvarado isn't there for offense. He's there for defense. The Knicks backup point guard. But at a certain point, you just got to get out there and guard him, and make it hard on him. And he's gonna make hard shots, and you just got to live with that. But it felt like the Spurs just like made the same mistakes that they did in Game Three, and it just re-aggravated some of them again, and it opened up new ones. And you're just like, and going into the fourth, the Spurs looked, I want to say worried, but they looked like they were a very small fish in a very big tank. When usually they're like the biggest fish in the smallest tank, you know? And the Knicks, got dropped in the tank and they were the bigger fish. And they just bullied the little fish. Bullied. Um, Heading into the fourth, I got a lot of notes. And we're only 20 minutes in, which is good. In the fourth quarter, let's get back into the actual game, and we're gonna get into like look back on some of these moments here in a second when we complete this um, string of notes I have here. But walk with me, okay? Walk with me. Um, there was a moment in this game where Vic offensive rebounded the ball with one hand like 5 times in one possession, just like tapped it around like volleyball style, just tap 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 tap, and it was really impressive. And you saw Karl Anthony Towns not be able to really keep him off the glass this game. I mean, how many rebounds did Vic have? Vic had 13 rebounds. Yeah, that's a good game. It's a really good game for him. 13 rebounds. Uh, Mitchell Robinson had some moments where he got some rebounds away from Vic, but Vic was on the glass heavy. Um, I liked it. I always say he plays better when he can rebound, and he just feels like he's unstoppable on the glass. That's when Vic plays at his best. It felt like maybe he could have had a fourth quarter for the ages and like halted the Knicks' run with just his scoring and obviously his high level defense. And it did show up in blips every now and then in the fourth, but Vic was sort of kind of lost, and the team looked lost. And then I noticed something. I don't know when this happened. I don't know if it happened at the beginning of the fourth or it happened like during a timeout, but um, the, the Knicks ran Jalen Brunson and Jose Alvarado together, and it worked. I don't know how they got away with that. I don't know how the Knicks got away with that and the Spurs didn't capitalize on that. I know Jose is a good defender, but he's a small guy. I know Jalen Brunson's a halfway decent defender, but like you didn't put those guys in pick and roll every time down. Like that was a missed opportunity right there. Um, Karl Anthony Towns had like a huge three near the Spurs bench on the far side of the court, over Keldon Johnson, and Keldon Johnson has played Karl Anthony Towns very well on defense. And at that moment, that felt like the backbreaker. Actually, looking back on it, that felt like the backbreaker right there, where like Karl hits this circus shot three. Keldon Johnson falls on him. Karl Anthony Towns falls down out of bounds onto the Spurs bench, and the crowd just pops because like, oh my God, he made it! One more point on the board. We're getting closer to to coming back in this game. And um, this wasn't a great game for Cat overall, but he did he did show up in the moments where you need him the most. Had a couple rebounds, 10 rebounds, had a double double actually, 13 points, 10 rebounds, but had a couple moments that were very critical to this comeback win. Um, I know sometimes it's hard to think about it when a guy only has 13 points and 10 rebounds, but the moments where he showed up were much needed, and you could tell he was very excited when he did eventually get it going. And then after some Karl Anthony Towns moments, um, the Spurs really go into panic mode. They just start shooting just random, I can say this now, bullshit. They just start shooting random bullshit. And this is when, even as a neutral fan, I'm like, oh my God, the Spurs are going to blow this lead. And it wasn't a matter of if they blew the lead and the Knicks took like a 3 point lead, right? That's fine. Well, it's not fine, but that's going to happen, right? This Knicks team is just so good at recovering, especially at home, after huge deficits, right? They did it against game one against the Cavs. This is not unfamiliar territory to them. And I start watching the Spurs team move and how they're like moving on defense, how they're moving on offense, and it's like, oh no, the Knicks are gonna take the lead, and I don't know. The Spurs can get it back. The question is, can they hold on to it after being absolutely bludgeoned by this Knicks team? You know, because after you give it up and the crowd pops and everything happens and you take the timeout or whatever, you know, in Miss Johnson's case, you don't take the timeout, um, it becomes very hard. And then it increasingly got worse and worse. And my notes go from, I'm going to read this in order: embarrassing basketball for the Spurs. Can't let the Knicks get off like this. And then Victor Wembanyama has a decision to sink on Jose Alvarado, like just show in the paint. And OG Anunoby, yeah, is in the corner, wide open for a three. And Vic decided, you know what's better than better than giving up a two, a three. And I don't know why he did that. Because, like, again, like I said earlier, if Jose Alvarado is going to beat you, he's going to beat you. It's okay. They just let OG Anunoby just hang out in the corner all game and then hit crazy shots. All time collapse. And the Knicks led. And when we get to this Knicks leading moment, the crowd did go crazy, but the game wasn't over. There was still plenty of time left. And if we know anything about, you know, both of these teams, they can both, you know, go on runs at the end of games. You know, they can both close out games. Well, I'll say for the Spurs, not in this series, but in past series, they can close out games. And, you know, maybe you think they can dig deep one time to make the series 2-2. And they didn't. They were, again, Mitch Johnson, no timeout, just letting the guys play. This young team of like 22-year-olds just play for some reason. I don't know why. Again, I don't know why. In my notes here, it says, I'm ashamed of the Spurs team. They can't do anything in the second half to save their life. And that's so true. Um, we look back on all these games, even the one they won, the second half was terrible. Absolutely awful. Um, though the Spurs did lead by one after a free throw with under 30 seconds left. So it felt like maybe this collapse could be like swept under the rug if you won the game. They were leading by one with 30 seconds left. There was some great Spurs defense to close out the Knicks. Um, there was some great defense out of the Knicks' second to last timeout. That's what I meant to say. Um, the Knicks inbounded the ball, didn't get a shot off. It got stolen by De'Aaron Fox. And in the moment of watching this, right, I'm watching them. Keep in mind, there's under 30 seconds left, and the Knicks need a shot. I think they just need one shot. They need a two or a three. That's why it was so dangerous. And they were inbounding on, was it the left side of the floor? Yeah, it was the far side of the floor. And they can't get it. They get it into Jalen Brunson. They double Jalen Brunson. Jalen Brunson turns the ball over. De'Aaron Fox gets it. He's going down the floor. I believe this is the same sequence. I believe goes down the floor. He's chasing the ball. Like the ball isn't even in his hands. It's just rolling down the floor. He picks it up, and there's less than 30 seconds left, and you're up by one. It can be a 3-point game if you just hold the ball and let them foul you, or just dribble the ball out, right? De'Aaron Fox decides, I'm going to go up for the layup. He goes up for the layup on OG Anunoby. I'm not even sure if he saw OG Anunoby because he's running down the floor, right? He has his eyes on the ball. He picks the ball up and just goes right up with it. He's right under the basket. And I don't know if he looked right or looked left before, but he didn't see OG, and OG just not erases the shot, but like alters it so much. And the Knicks go down, and we get some shenanigans. You might be wondering why are there only two pictures on the screen today. Well, one is obviously Wembanyama on the Knicks logo, which is a cool picture, but the picture on the left, that's OG Anunoby. And it doesn't look like he's in control of the ball, but he has just tipped the ball in for the Knicks on a wild sequence. Jalen Brunson takes the last shot once again. A long one this time. And nobody boxes out. You can see Dylan Harper right there. You can see three Spurs in the paint. There were only two Knicks in the paint. And then OG Anunoby flies in, He flies in and tips the ball in. And the crowd goes absolutely nuts because there's only 1.1, 1.2 seconds left. And then I just want to make it very clear. All of this happened, and I might have got my series of events jumbled up a little bit, but the ball was in Jalen Brunson's hands twice, or he was around the area where the ball was. He turns it over, or you obviously trust Jalen Brunson with the last shot, and he misses it, and you think the Spurs are going to get out of here, and then OG Anunoby comes in with one of the most miraculous tip-ins ever that you'll ever see, and he won the Knicks the game. And I go into this timeout with the Spurs, as a neutral fan, and I'm thinking, I first think the Spurs aren't going to get this ball in. They don't have any timeouts. They need to get the ball in, but they they're not going to be able to get it in. The Knicks are just going to stop them right there, and the game's going to be over, and the clock's going to expire. And then I think, no, they're going to be able to get it in. It's just going to be messy. It's not going to be the play they drew up. It's going to be some BS shot, and either they're going to make it or miss it. And that's how you win the finals. Obviously, like OG just did. Some BS shot, you just make it, right? And they come out of the timeout, and I see Dylan Harper inbounding the ball. Rookie Dylan Harper. And I'm thinking to myself, you make Dylan Harper inbound the ball. Coach Mitch Johnson of the Spurs makes rookie Dylan Harper inbound the ball on the biggest play of the season thus far for your team. I don't know who else maybe could have inbounded it. I mean, maybe I would have had like Luke Cornett or like Bismack Biyombo or like Harrison Barnes, like one of the older players, inbound the ball. And maybe one of the taller players too, because Dylan Harper's kind of short. And Mitch Johnson decided to go with the young guy, and I don't know what he thought was going to happen. It was supposed to be like a lob almost to Stephon Castle, and it just got disrupted and blown up by Mitchell Robinson and Josh Hart, and that was the game. And I was watching this, and I was sitting there, and the clock expired, and the Knicks obviously celebrate. They're like hugging each other, like they won the finals. They essentially did, but like, they won the finals, and then all the crowds going crazy. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, oh my god, the Knicks actually did it. And you can hear Mike Breen, the announcers, like they come back in a miraculous, 29-point comeback. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, they really did, that really just happened. And I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. Because I said this before and I'll say it again. My whole life, the Knicks have been bad. And for one moment here, it not one moment. This whole playoff run, they haven't been bad. I don't think they've had one singularly bad game, like truly bad game. Maybe two, considering the other one they lost to the Spurs. But it didn't matter. This team is full of heart, man. And my last note here is OG Anunoby Finals MVP. Closing moments, defense, and the shot, the putback. Yeah, OG Anunoby's Finals MVP. If I had to put money on it, I would say OG's Finals MVP. And as this game ended, and as I was sitting there, thinking about what just happened, I was trying to think of other moments that felt like this. Because at least for me, no matter. Well, let me get through this first. Moments that felt like this. There aren't a lot of them, especially in like this moment of the comeback and the historical significance of the comeback and all of that. Um, I tried to think, and the only thing I could come up with was maybe the block by James, by LeBron James and Andre Iguodala. That was a moment when that turned the game, that won them the game. Um, Moments that just left me in shock is basically what I'm going for, and maybe the Kyrie shot, maybe that Damian Lillard shot on Paul George. I'm trying to think of like playoff moments, not just regular season moments, but there aren't a lot of these. And I will say this is the reason I watch basketball. I don't feel like this stuff can happen in maybe 80% of the other sports where like a team can come back in this manner, control the game, shift the whole energy of an arena, and come out on top. And that's why I love this game. And there's a lot of stuff that goes on. We complain about all season, and we talk about all season, and we us as basketball fans are always like looking for something to complain about. But this moment, for every other fan that isn't a Spurs fan, this was a really cool moment. And I really enjoyed watching this game. And even though I was in shock, I think that's an awesome feeling because I'd rather be in shock that the Knicks won than like the Spurs sweep them or the Knicks sweep the Spurs. And another note I had thinking about this and why the Spurs lost, it's because they're young. It's because they're young. I'm not trying to use that as an excuse. It's because they're young. It's because the coach is young. It's because the players are young. I would like to think about it like this. Jalen Brunson's what, 28, 29 years old, right? Think about 29-year-old Stefan Castle. Think about 29-year-old Dylan Harper. Think about 29-year-old Victor Wembanyama. And think about 22-year-old Jalen Brunson, 22-year-old OG Anunoby, 22-year-old Karl Anthony Towns. If the roles are reversed, I think the outcome is the exact same. Where we are right now, where the Spurs would be up 3-1 and the Knicks would be down, 3-1. Not to take anything away from the Knicks, but I genuinely think the Knicks have preyed on the Spurs being young and dumb enough to just give up leads and give up, you know, the small moments. And it's just so funny how like I said, the maturity and like the veteran knowledge of the the Knicks just overrides everything that the Spurs can do. The Spurs, this is a deflating loss. And we get back to the question I asked at the beginning, and the question a lot of people are asking is like, is this the worst collapse in finals history? I don't think anything will ever beat the 3-1 comeback. that was, you had to be there to watch it, and it just hearing, like, it sounds like the boogeyman. Like the Warriors lost, the Warriors like gave up a 3-1 lead, in the finals. It sounds like the boogeyman. You had to be there in the moment because it was just like a weird collapse. Um, I think the singular game um, crumbles and like downfalls. Yes, I think this is the one. But overall, like in the finals, no. I think blowing the whole series is worse than this. But if you had to sit down and watch a game and you told somebody just react naturally to this game, that hasn't seen this game before, they would be left like stunned. They'd be like, "What? What just happened? What did I watch?" um, some other things. Let's talk about why this happened, and then we'll get out of here. We talked about at the beginning, there are a lot of culprits for this, right? Why the Spurs lost this game. Is it the coach? I sat up here with you guys and I said, I'm gonna go easy on Mitch Johnson. He just won the Western Conference Finals, as like a second year head coach, technically first full year, but second year as a head coach. I'm gonna give him some grace. I wish I never said that because, man, I don't want to say I hate this guy. I don't like saying I hate people. I really don't like Mitch Johnson as the coach of this team. I just don't. I feel like every other coach in the NBA would have played this so much differently, and the Spurs probably had a better chance at winning this. And Mitch Johnson, you might want to move into a gated community. You might want to get some extra security on your house. Get a Ring doorbell. Because I'm not sure if you're welcomed in San Antonio anymore. You might have to move to like a neighboring city or something because that's bad. So Mitch Johnson is definitely one. Victor Wembanyama, the star player. I said this after they lost. I said, when you win, you have to celebrate and cheer your guys and say like, we did it. It's not just because of me. And when you lose, you have to take the same accountability. You have to be just as loud as when you win, because you are the star player and this does fall on you. And Vic did have some moments, where he missed 2 free throws in a row. He took some dumb shots. This does lie on Vic. It does. It has to. As the star player, it has to. If the Knicks win this again, if the roles reverse, Jalen Brunson would be looked at like, what the hell are you doing? Karl Anthony Towns would be looked at like, what the hell are you doing? It's just a part of it. It's a part of being the star player. Is you have to ask any star player over the past like however many years. It falls on we'll go back in history of the last couple years, the last couple championships. When you don't win, it's Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, it's Nikola Jokic, it's Giannis, it's Steph, it's LeBron, it's KD, it's all these players, right? It falls on them when they lose. Has some of them lost in such dramatic fashion? Yeah, some of them have lost, and they're still great players. But in that moment, today in 2026, in was it June of 2026, Vic, you're going to be looked at, and people are going to make fun of you. And I think Victor, I saw a video of Victor Wembanyama. He got an egg thrown at him. That was crazy. I'm not sure, that's not cool, but yeah, it's just um, yeah, it's on you, man. Dylan Harper, Stephon Castle. I don't think Stephon played worse, but Stephon played worse, but Dylan had more points. Dylan really didn't show up in that second half too much. Castle didn't either. I'm going to give them grace because they're young players. And I know Vic's young too, but Vic is the star player, so he just gets automatic. This is on you. This is on your shoulders. Stephon, Dylan, no. Yeah, you could always say you could have done more. Stephon on that last possession, to win the game. You have one of the two. We have one of the better defenders on you. And that was the connection. It was a Dylan Harper to Stephon Castle lob, and they both messed it up. So maybe this does sit on both their shoulders, but it wasn't completely their fault. The person that everybody's really mad at is De'Aaron Fox, and like we talked about, De'Aaron Fox running after the ball, getting the ball and laying it up, and then getting the shot altered by OG Anunoby. In that moment, I thought about it, and I was like, maybe if you catch that ball and you take a timeout on that end of the floor, you win the game essentially. I thought that in the moment. I think I didn't realize how many people thought that too. But like you just have to get the ball and call the timeout because you're up one. You call the timeout. You run an out of timeout play, or they have to immediately foul you. You go to the free throw line. You make one. You make two. This OG Anunoby tip in is only a tie. It only ties the game. It doesn't win them the game. You think about it like that, in that sort of micro way, it becomes a lot harder to stomach. And I said it before and I'll say it again. De'Aaron Fox, you're not going to be a San Antonio Spur next year. I'm sorry. And De'Aaron Fox is one of my favorite players. I really do like De'Aaron, but no, buddy. These moments don't age well, and they don't make your teammates feel any better about you. And they'll never say it, but they will think it all the time. And I think Spurs fans have a sour taste in their mouth, and I don't think they could ever forgive you for this collapse. Do you have anything else to say here? Because we're at 42 minutes in. I do want to get out of here. Let me see if there's anything on Twitter that I missed. Something, a quote, maybe, perhaps. Something to say. Yeah, everybody's just upset with the Spurs and De'Aaron Fox. Everybody's making fun of De'Aaron Fox. Let's see here. Let's see. Let me pull this up. Let's answer this while I pull this up. Is this one of the greatest finals games? Not ever. Ever is a crazy. Ever is like a long time, so I don't like to say that. Maybe like over the past 5 years. Hell yeah, it's a really good one. This reminded me a lot of the Suns versus Bucks series when Giannis just went absolutely nuclear and won them the game. Oh yes, we have this. Some numbers for you here. Victor Wembanyama is averaging 29 points per game in the finals, which is the fifth highest all time. And his team just isn't doing him any favors. And my last thing here, there's only been 2 final sweeps over the last 20 years. And the Spurs won't be one of them. So if you're going to take a positive thing away from this, Spurs fans, you didn't get swept. You got one. Maybe the Knicks are going to celebrate a championship on your floor on Saturday. That doesn't feel good, but it's the price you pay for blowing this game, I guess. Anything else? I mean, for the Knicks, OG and Jalen Brunson the only ones that really show up. Josh Hart 6 points, Mikal Bridges 7, Garland Anthony Towns 13, and somehow they won this game. 107 to the Spurs 106. I'm so happy we all got to experience this. I hope everybody that's not a Spurs fan is happy that they got to experience this. And if you didn't get to experience it, I would suggest watching the highlights. But I don't think the highlights do justice to this amazing game. And the last thing I'll say is, for the Spurs, for Victor, this is a rite of passage. You're gonna get beat by the older, more experienced team, and you're gonna come back at some point, hopefully, and you're gonna be better. And this is gonna be a valuable learning experience for you. And yeah, that's it. That's the video. The end screen should be playing right now. Check out the video on the left. Check out the playlist on the right. If you click my icon right in the middle of the screen, a little subscribe button will pop up, and you can subscribe with ease. Like and comment as well. And I will see you guys next time for what could possibly be the last video of this season, and we might crown a new NBA champion. We'll see. I'll see you next time. Cheers.